I think the strategic challenge, as you said, is the transfer from generations. Because if you look at most of the family-owned businesses in Kuwait, the large ones, they're in the second generation and they're coming to the end of the second generation. And really that transition from the second generation to the third generation around the world has been when businesses fall apart. I think the rule of thumb is the first generation make it, the second generation maximise it, and the third generation lose it. So, you know, there really is a huge challenges for businesses in making that transformation. I think as we were talking about earlier, Wazan have really taken a very brave move, and they're the first people in Kuwait that I'm aware of to head down this track. I fully believe that in 3 or 4 years' time, there'll be a lot more companies following us. But we've always led from the front. So the move from the second and third generation, will be just the first people to do it properly as well. From an operational point of view, I think that's changing. I think there are a lot more businesses now in this region who are Western in their outlook. So if you look at, for example, we have a partnership with a company called Kimberly-Clark who do Kleenex tissues and that type of thing. You know, their manufacturing now is local. It's Bahrain, it's Saudi. And it's as good as anywhere I've seen in the world. So there's a huge opportunity now to learn from these bigger players and transfer it into the local companies. And by and large, that's what's happening. Most of the big family companies have strategic alliances with people that allow them to learn from those companies and transfer it into their business. It probably depends on the family's will, though, to drive it through the business, because there will be people who've been with the company for a long, long time who just don't adapt to a different way of doing things. So I think that's the challenge we'll all face from an operational point of view. But I think we're well positioned to cope with it. I'm probably coming from a different perspective, because I come from an Irish background and our population is about the same as Kuwait. And actually you see lots of very dominant families, lots of businesses locked up with particular families, because the economy hasn't really been big enough to attract the multinational players in. I think over time in Kuwait, what you'll see is more and more multinationals and less family involvement. I think it's inevitable, because I don't think it can continue to grow in the way it has in the longer term. If you look at, say, Al Wazan, for example, you know, you had a father in Jassim, 10 kids, 5 of them stayed in the business together. You know, that's difficult to manage, 5 brothers working together for their whole lives. Now it comes down to 35 as they move to the next generation. So inevitably these companies will start to fragment or move into a more multinational phase themselves. And what you see now is big family companies like Al Shaya have started moving out of the region. So, you know, we're in that place where we're trying to grow in the region, but, you know, the next logical step is outside the region. You know, Al Shaya are huge in Russia. They're huge in Turkey. They've just made a huge acquisition in the UK. You know, so you can see these companies evolving. And, you know, what's Nestle but an old family company? What's Master Foods but the old Mars family company? They've all grown from those roots. So I think we're just experiencing it at the start of the growth. And I think we've got a very exciting journey ahead of us.